where truma is where something with a certain level of tuma was allowed to be in contact with something with even a less level, with a lesser degree of tuma, even though l'chayra you're adding a level of tuma, right? To truma to kachim, you're not supposed to add tuma to kachim or truma at all. But since it's already tamei, so we don't care if you're giving it a higher level of tuma. Okay, we'll go through the cases quickly as the Gemara goes through them in today's daf. So, but today we're going to focus on the last statement of the Mishnah. The Gemara on the bottom of Daf Yomi Pesachim Page, right? So basically, just to sum up the Mishnah, we had two cases. We had the case of Rabbi Chanina's Gana Kayanim and the case of Rabbi Akiva. The case of Rabbi Chanina's Gana Kayanim is if you have basar shenitma bevlada tuma, basar that became tamei with a vlada tuma. Vlada tuma is a rishon tuma, right? The Aviyav said let's make this the avatuma, right? And this is the vlada tuma, right? This is the avatuma, this is the vlada tuma, and this is the rishon tuma. Right, if we make this a rishon tuma, so this is the avatuma. That's rishon. Let's make this the avatuma. Aviyahu said tuma we could leave out of it, right? The mace we could leave out of it. Right? Avatuma is either a person or a sheretz, a person who's tamei mace because he touched their body, or a sheretz or a zava nida yiladas. All those people who are tamei. This is a rishon tuma, and let's say this is a sheni tuma, right? So basar. Shenit, so Rabbi Chanina's Gana Kayanim's case, if you have basar shenitma bivlada tuma, right? Basar that was nitma bivlada tuma, right? So if this is a vlada tuma, right? And this is a rishon, right? Basar shenitma bivlada tuma, you're allowed to burn it with basar that was nitma be'avatuma, which means that if something else is on this level also, let's find something. Okay, right. So these are on the same level, right? Since these are on the same level, so therefore you're allowed to be metame. You're allowed to burn this with this, even though this is on a higher level of tumah, right? Excuse me. So the Gemara asked right away yesterday.
Those two things are rishon.
Right. Yeah. This is avatoma rishon. This is sheni.
What's the tissue? Tissue rishon too.
Yeah, they're both rishon. Yeah.
Okay. So you can burn the rishon with a sheni. That's no chiddush. That's because
right. The fact. Right. So the Gemara asked right away. Right. You can burn the sheni with the rishon. Right. Of course. How did it become a sheni? By touching this rishon. So what do I care if I touch the rishon, this rishon again? It's the same thing. Right. So the Gemara added another tissue box. Right. The Gemara said that really we're dealing with over here a shlishi. Right. So the chiddush is that even though this is an avatuma, rishon tuma, sheni tuma, shlishi tuma, right, and now by you touching it to this,
so the rishon becomes a sheni.
It becomes a sheni, so it goes from shlishi to sheni, and that's the problem, right? I think more said the next case, and Rabbi Akiva was haisif. He said that right? Let's say this instead is a ner. This is a tvul yoim. This is a person who went to the mikvah. I can try to focus the screen, Reb Shmuel, on our objects of visual. I don't know if you see it, but basically we have four objects over here. The first one is avatom, rishon, sheni, and shlishi. So if the sheni, which is the tvul yoim, tvul yoim is a sheni l'tuma. Tvul yoim is the person who should go to the mikvah, right? And he went to the mikvah, but his hair of shemesh didn't happen yet. He's the sheni l'tuma, so he makes shlishi. Right, so let's say you have shemen shenitma. This is shemen shenitma betvul yaim, which is a shlishi now, right? And you pour it into a ner, which is nitma be'avatoma, right? Right. So now again, this becomes a sheni. In fact, the Gemara no chiddush. We just said that a second ago. This becomes a sheni. You're allowed to make a shlishi into a sheni. The Gemara says no. The chiddush is that over here in this situation, right? This was puzzle and was not able to matam anything else because truma, right, at this point, it doesn't make a revi. There's no such thing as a reveal tumah. This is puzzle, but it's not tummy in the sense that it can transfer the tumah weiter. It doesn't go further, right? But now when you're telling me that it becomes a sheni avada, it could push further, right? So that's a bigger chiddush. Because by kachim, when this was kachim, when this was basar, so even the shlishi had a koyach to go weiter. So okay, has the koyach to go weiter this way, has the koyach to go weiter this way. Very good. It's not as much of a chiddush over here. The fact that you're telling me it goes from puzzle that can't transfer to go weiter to tamei, right? That's a bigger chiddush. Okay. Then comes Rav Meir in the end of the Mishnah and says, right? Then comes Rav Meir, that when you're burning chametz, if you have chametz that's truma tahara, chametz is truma tamei, you let it burn it together. Okay, that's Rav Meir's midivreim lamadna. Right, we learned from what we just discussed from Chanina and Rabbi Akiva. So that's what we're discussing today at the end of Daf Yudal Amud Beis. Rav Meir, midivreim lamadna, midivreim diman, says the Gemara. What does he mean from the words from their words? If he means from the first case of Chanina's Gana Koyanim, midami, right? Hasam tami v'tame, right? Over there, right? This was nitma, right? This is basa shenitma bevlad vladatoma, right? Like this, and right, and then you're making it into tame, right? You're burning it with, right? You're burning it with basa shenitma be'avatoma, which are this and this are both tame. So you're burning them together, big deal, right? They're both tame. They are both tame. Rav Meir is proposing, right? Hacha tahar v'tame. Rav Meir is proposing you have truma tahara and truma tameya, which are both chametz. You let it burn them together. What do you mean? It's totally tahar, right? So, right. So how are you doing that? How are you deducing?
How can you compare the two?
Right, how are you learning from Chanis Gana Kayanim? Midam Hasam Tami Vitami, Hachatar Vitami. Velu and Rabbi Akiva, may use the next issue of Akiva. Midam Hasam Puzzle Vitami, right? Over there, this truma fine, it wasn't Tami, it was puzzle. The Maisa was still puzzle, and you're burning it with Tami, right? Fine. You're making it hot, you're making it into Tami. But it was already puzzle. Mashenkin over here, you have Tar and Tami, Hachatar Vitami. Name a Kasav Rav Meir. Maybe you'll tell me that Rav Meir holds, Rav Meir learned differently than us. Rav Meir holds a Masisin Ba'avatuma Doiraisa, that the Mishnah was an Avatuma Doiraisa, meaning this is an Avatuma that made Rishon Tuma Doiraisa, right? The first thing, with the higher level of Tuma in the Mishnah is Tuma Doiraisa, but Vlada Tuma Derabbanon. And what Chanina's Gana Koyanim's case was that the basa that you're allowed to burn with the thing that was with something that was basa shenitma be'avatuma, right? That this is only Tama really midrabbanon. Right, the shlishi the toma, or maybe according to this, maybe you could even say it's the sheni toma, whatever. But the shlishi the toma that we talked about, the vlad toma, which you're allowed to burn with the basar shenit b'avatuma, the chamin is going in case. The whole thing's only asim d'rabbanon. This is really tama midrabbanon. What's the case? Rashi says the case with mashkin. Mashkin's only mitama midrabbanon. Let's say you forget the case right now. The point is if this is only a tuma d'rabbanon, and Chanina's Gana Koyanim is telling you that you're allowed to, right? I don't know if we'll be able to show it on the screen.
That's okay. Don't worry.
Chanina's Gana Koyanim, right? So this is Tomei Midrabanan, and you're allowed to be Mitamet Midoraisa, right? Right now, really, Midoraisa, it's nothing. It's totally Tahar, right? But because of Tomei Midrabanan,
we're saying any Vlad is Darabanan or just the Shlishi? No.
Let's say in a case where the Vlad is Darabanan. Not every Vlad is Darabanan.
How do we don't have any Gedarim though?
You want to know what the case is?
No, I don't know.
Rashi says the case is how did this become a shlishi? This became a shlishi through mashkin. The halacha is that midrab
saying mashkin like we did, didn't we? Like before the two dots.
That's a drabanan. No, it's a drabanan. Now, kol ha'pais also true mitav mashkin dias tchila. Chutz mitzvul yom.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a drabanan. It's a gezerim drabanan.
And some cloud, which is the rabbi. You're saying the blood is a shlishi? Okay.
Well, because the Gemara said that this case is a vlad, right?
Okay.
Okay, so we're doing the vlad over here, right? So Rashi says, but the Gemara wants to say that really midaraisa it's tahar. So Chinis Ganakanim is saying a huge chiddush that even though midaraisa this is totally fine.
So now it's the same as us.
You're allowed to make it into tamei daraisa, allowed to make it into a sheni midaraisa, even though really midarabanan is totally fine, right? Because this is the avatuma. The avatuma touches basar. You're allowed to take this and burn it with this, even though right now it's becoming a sheni. If you touch it to this, it's becoming a sheni, right? And right now, before that, it was just a tumah mamish tumah darabanan, right? So therefore, it was nothing midaraisa, and still you're allowed to make it into tumah daraisa. Okay, so we could have cases where this is a daraisa tumah. This is daraisa tumah. This is daraisa tumah. And this made this daraisa puzzle, this daraisa tumah, right? And then it wouldn't be a chiddush, right? Then Chanis Ganakanim is saying that even though you're on a lower level of tumah daraisa, you're allowed to make it on a higher level tumah daraisa, right? But that wouldn't help us for chametz, for allowing you to burn the truma tahira with truma tmeya, right? The one star, one stomach. How could you do that? But now that we have a case over here, the really Rav Chanis Ganakanim is talking about this is just pasal midaraisa. All this is just midarabanan. All this is just drabanan. It's not real. It's not real midaraisa, right? And still, we're allowing you to go be metame and burn it together with this basar, which is daraisa dika rishon l'tumah, right? And now this is becoming a daraisa sheni l'tumah, right? So you see, because of a psul drabanan, Chanin allows you to make it into a psul daraisa. Because it's only pasal truma drabanan, it's already disqualified with drabanan. We don't care. We allow you to go ahead and make it into a sheni midaraisa. Okay? Now, why that's true, we'll see in a second, but let's just read the Gemara. The midaraisa really leads to her ma'alya. Umay midivreim, what does it mean midivreim? He means midivreim is gonna kayanim. Right? He means from the case of Chanis Ganakanim, because we see that this is Tamid Rabban, allowed to make a Tumah Daraisa. Right? So too by us in our situation of Truma Tahira and Truma Tmeya, right? Now, this doesn't, just because Chanis Ganakanim allows you to do this, doesn't mean you're allowed to just make a Tamid Truma Tahira or Truma Tmeya, right? Of course not. The only reason why your Chanis Ganakanim allows you to do it is because this is Lamaisa Pasal Midrabanan. So for some reason, right, we allow you to be Mitamid, but even though it's on Midrabanan, but it is Pasal Midrabanan, which means that it's not going anywhere, right? You're not going to do anything with it. Again, it's us to eat Midrabanan. Therefore, we can go ahead and allow you to be Mitamid. So too in our situation by Chametz, because we're dealing with in a time where the Chametz, even the Truma Tahira Chametz, right, is Asr Bachila, because Midrabanan, it's Asr to eat, because we're dealing here Misheish Shaisul Mala in the 6th hour, Midaraisa, you're not allowed to eat it from the 7th hour, right? But Midrabanan, even from the 6th hour, you're not allowed to eat it. So since it's Asr to eat Midrabanan, right? So that already disqualifies the Truma Tahira, even though it's not a psul tuma, right? It's just a psul chametz, right? So therefore, also we can allow this leniency to burn it, right? And even though it's really touching a doiraisa, right? Now Rashi seems to give a reasoning. What do you mean? How does the Rabbanan? How the Rabbanan allow you to be matam with the doiraisa, right? So right, Rashi seems. I'm not sure it's 100% akasha because we do see sometimes the chachamim are oikadavrim in Torah, but whatever. The point of Rashi says, how could we allow it? It seems Rashi's teretz is going back to the sugya discussed yesterday that according to this step in the Gemara, ein oichel matama oichel midaraisa. Means really we know that there's a big machlokes amoraim as to whether or not oichel can be matama oichel stam midaraisa, or is the whole thing just the Rabbana, right? So therefore, anyway, since this whole thing is the Rabbanan, so what? This basar is touching this basar, and this is only a time with the Rabbanan, this time with the Raisa. Good, midaraisa, nothing's happening anyway, because midaraisa, when these two things touch, nothing happens. Ain't oichel matame oichel, right?
That Rabbanan, we don't hold Rabbanan really. I mean, some things we do. Really
oh, you mean ain't shos b'mikdash?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Ain't shvus b'mikdash. Interesting.
We're talking about Rabbanans and the Rices and the
right. I don't, maybe the Ein Shvus B'Mikdash doesn't apply to these things. Ein Shvus B'Mikdash is on Shabbos. Ein Shvus B'Mikdash is only certain. I say here it's a good kasha, but it seems over here. Pasha says that we don't have to necessarily be dealing in the Beis Hamikdash, right? We probably are dealing in the Beis Hamikdash.
Well, yeah, that's the whole idea. It's funny what happened in this video.
Well, you could be burning bus or kachim outside the base of Mikdash, right? But even so, you would say that it's kachim, so it could be included in Ishus Mikdash. You could kachim could be burnt out. It's kachim kalam that's burnt outside in Yerushalayim. Doesn't necessarily. But I hear the kasha, right? I hear the kasha. L'chara, that's a good kasha. Probably the terrace is that this type of thing, Tomantara, they didn't give the leniencies of in Shavuos Mikdash. Shavuos is more of a thing on Shabbos. Like something like the Rabbanon. Shavuos is mashmelos and Shavisa, right? It's like, okay, I hear the kash. Okay, so that's one approach in how to understand Rav Meir, right? Rav Meir says, look, in the Mishnah anyway, it's only talking about Rabbanon, so you're touching something that's tahor v'tamei. So it's over here, it's something that's possibly the Rabbanon because it's usher to eat, therefore you're touching it, it's mutter. Okay, says no, you don't have to say that. Go back to what we understood. There's the avatum d'oraisa, right? And vadatum d'oraisa. He means from the words Rabbi Eliyahu Raful. Like we see in the end of the Mishnah, right? Rabbi Yossi says that even Rabbi Eliyahu Raful agree that you can't burn chametz truma tahar with truma tameya. You have to burn them separately. That's what Rabbi Yossi says. Rabbi Yossi says, "Oh, hey, Meir, what's your raya?" Even Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Elazar hold that you have to burn them separately. Don't say allowed to burn them together. Right now, we don't know who's Rabbi Elazar, who's Rabbi Yeshua. Right? When you read the Mishnah, you don't know who's Rabbi Yossi quoting what shaykh is over here. Right? But now Rish Lakish is saying you have to understand that's the prime focus of Rav Meir. Rav Meir is saying I'm learning from Elazar Yeshua. Where's Elazar Yeshua? We'll find it, but it's not here. Right? Midivrei means Midivrei Elazar Yeshua. Hi Rabbi Yeshua. Which Rabbi Yeshua? Ilay Mahar Rabbi Yeshua. Ditnan. The following Mishnah Chavshel Truma Shnei L'Safik Tuma. If you have a barrel of truma, that there's a suffix whether a tamei person touched it or not, right? Shnei L'Safik Tuma. You have a barrel of truma, it's suffix tamei, suffix tahor. If it was in an open place, Makam Aturpa Rashi is a place that's hefker. If it was in an open place, you should now, even though it's a suffix tar, suffix tamei, right? Which means you can't really eat it now because misafik it's tamei, misafik it's also to eat, right? Still, you still have to watch it. Make sure it doesn't get for sure tamei because maybe it's tar, maybe it's still tar. So therefore, there's still a mitzvah of watching truma. There's a mitzvah of watching truma. Rashi says he learns out. There's a mitzvah of watching 100% truma and a mitzvah of watching suffix truma that's suffix tar, suffix tamei. He holds even though is suffix tamei, you have to still watch it. If it was uncovered, again, you have to cover it. Make sure it doesn't become tamei for sure. No. If it was in a place that's hiding, you can put it in an open place. If it was open, right? You're allowed to open it. You're allowed to leave it in a place. You're allowed to leave it open because he holds there's no issue of making something that's right, something that's suffix tahar, suffix tamei, right? You're allowed to cause it. You're allowed to let it become fully tamei. Right? He doesn't hold there's a restriction. Right? He doesn't hold that there's a mitzvah of shmira on truma that's already suffix tamei, suffix tahar. Why? Since it's going to ibud anyway. Since it's going to be, it has to be destroyed because we can't use it. We can't eat it, right? Because it's suffix tamei. So therefore, he holds no problem. Let it become fully tamei, right? So Rabbi Yossi is saying. Yossi says that from this Rabbi Yeshua, l'chayra you can apply it to chametz. And since the chametz is going to ibud, right? Even though it's truma tahara, but it's chametz now and it has to be destroyed. So therefore, we don't care if you burn it with truma tahara. You can cause tumah to it, just like the truma over here. You can cause tumah to it. Why? Because it's going to ibud. Because anyway, it's suffix tamei. So therefore, you can cause it to be destroyed, right? You can cause it to be 100% tamei. So to buy us the truma tahira, even though it's fully tahira, but it's going to ibud because it's chametz and it's the 6th hour already, right? So therefore, you can cause it full tumah. Says the Gemara, right? And then comes Rav Meir and says, no, what do you mean? Even if Yeshua only holds that by suffix tamei, truma that's suffix tamei, suffix tahar. But if it's vadei tahar, he wouldn't allow it, right? Your raya from Yeshua, but here it's not a raya because Rabbi Yeshua only allows it when it's suffix tamei. Then he lets you be Kerem. Then he lets you let it become tamei. But by us, he will never let it become tamei because it's vadei tar. It's not suffix. Says the Gemara. This is not a raya. This shita from Rabbi Yeshua is not a raya. Why? Because Midamiya. Hasam grama ba'alma b'yadayim. Over there it's a grama. We're not telling you you're allowed to make it tamei. We're not telling you you're allowed to touch the suffix tuma, the truma that's suffix tamei. You're allowed to touch it to something tar. All we're saying is, right? All we're saying is you're allowed to open it. You're allowed to put it in an open place. You can let it become tamei on its own. You're allowed to be garim tuma to this thing which is already suffix tamei. You're allowed to be garim tuma, right? But how could Rav Meir possibly bring a riot to our case, which you're actually doing it b'yadayim? You're taking the truma tameya and putting it together with the truma tahira, right? That's actually b'yadayim. It's not a grama. Don't bring me around from that case where Yeshua says you're allowed to leave the chavis out in the open. No, that's a grama. Okay. Elah Rabbi Yeshua must be the next Yeshua. Tnan chavis shel truma shenishbro b'gas al yena. If you have a barrel of truma that broke in the gas al yena. Gas is the press where you smash the grapes and then it goes into the vat, right, to making wine. So I guess there were two levels. One level where you smash it, where you smash the grapes, and then it seeps down into the bottom pit, right? So v'tachtoina chulin tmein, right? Now the bottom, what was on the bottom, let's say you have wine on the bottom, but that's chulin tmein, right? So now what happens is you have chulin tahira upstairs, right? And that breaks and falls down. If everything falls down, so now the chulin tmein, right? The wine that's chulin tmei, but it's tamei, is now going to mix with the yain that's tahar, right? And now it's going to make it tamei. And now you won't be able to eat anything because truma that's nitma is asur to eat. Chulin that's tamei you're allowed to eat, but now it's mixed with truma shenitma. Right, so you're not gonna be able to eat the whole thing because the truma is going to become tamei as soon as it hits the wine, and then everything is mixed in and it's also to eat. So
can't the kohen have truma tameya?
No, truma tameya is an issa d'oraisa.
Okay.
Chulin tameya the kahanim are allowed to eat. I mean, depends what type of tumah it is. Midoraisa, midrabanan, but chulin tameya there's no issa to eat really. Right, it's only
even if the tamei. What if the kohen is tamei? He can have it.
Then he could eat chulin tameya, but not truma tameya. No,
not truma tameya. Okay.
Yeah, truma tameya is also The only thing you might be allowed to do is to burn it. Hanash el kilui. You might be able to have ano in a way when it gets destroyed. You let have ano as it's getting destroyed. So chulin. So Maider Lezer Rabbi Yeshua. So this case, right? What do you do? Maider Rabbi Yeshua. Shim yachal atzanam and revius b'tayra yatsa. Let's say you can bring a tahar kli and save at least the revis of the truma tahara yayin. The yayin is truma tahara. You're allowed to run and bring a kli. You should go run and bring a kli to be able to save at least the revis of this truma tahara. Okay, so because again the objective of here is to save as much truma as you can, right? So therefore, if you could run and get a revius and save as much truma as you can, save a revius of bimla. But if you don't have any kalim to hire him around, right? By the time you go and run after a kli that's tahar, everything's going to spill and you're going to be losing everything. So there's no point in running to get a kli tahar. What should you do, right? So what you should do is you take a Rabbi Elazar's machmer. He says no, you can't do anything. Let it go and let it be. You shouldn't be matam with your hands. Meaning, what do you want? What do you want to do? You have a tamekli. You do have a tamekli that you could catch all the wine. Chavas nishbura, it's truma tahira. You have a tamekli, right? So says Rabbi Eliezer, you can't use that tamekli to catch the tahar truma wine. You're causing tuma b'yodayim, right? You're causing tuma b'yodayim by letting the truma tahira fall into a tamekli. You're causing it to be tamei b'yodayim. You're causing it to be tamei, and you're the one putting there. I understand what you're doing. What you're doing is you're saving the truma tahara, which is going to be lost anyway, right? Because it's going to fall into the tamei. Because you want to save your chulin wine on the bottom of there. You want to save your wine from becoming asa b'achila, right? What are you doing? You're taking your tamei kli. It's tamei. You can't cause tuma to truma tahara, right? Actively. Yeshua says no. Afi tamei nabirad, right? Yeshua says you're allowed to be even tamei bayad. Right? Why? Because again, Yeshua, and that's the raya to our Mishnah. That since this truma, even though it's 100% tahar truma, but it's going leibud, it's falling straight into the vat of chulin tmeim. It's going to become tamei. It's going to become everything's going to become maser. So therefore, Yeshua allows you to be mitame bayad because it's going leibud. So too by us, right? So too by us, chametz, which is going to ibud, you're allowed to be metalmet biyadayim and mix it with truma tmeya, valika raya, and that's the raya Rabbi Yeshua is coming from. Says the Gemara, ihachi hai midivrayim. So why is Rav Meir saying midivrayhem from their words, plural? He's coming from Yeshua. He's not coming from Eliezer. He's not coming from Chanina's Gana Kohanim and Rav Meir. That's not what he's doing. He's coming from one sheet of Yeshua. Why does he say midivrayim? Right? And he means from the divrayhem through the machlokes of Yeshua. Right? That's what we know. That's what we know. From Avad, it's only one coming from one sheet of Yeshua. The economic tani moider of Yeshua shmamina. The economic, the Gemara is saying, must be taka. This is where Rav Meir is coming from because when Yaisi says over, right, he says moider of Yeshua must be. We were really discussing all along Yeshua. It's mashma. The fact that Yaisi later on is quoting Yeshua, it's mashma that all along even Rav Meir was really quoting Rav Yeshua, and he wasn't really coming from Rav Chanina's Gana Kohen like we were saying. Okay. V'chein Amar Rav Nachman. Amar Rabba Baravua, so to Rab Nachman said in the name of Rabbi Avua, Masisin Bavatuma Da'iraisa, Vladatuma Da'iraisa, Umay Midivrei Midivrei Yeshua. Okay, so he said the same mahalach. Asive Rava Rav Nachman, Frek Rava to Rav Nachman. We have a brayso on the Tosefta that says like this: Rav Yaisi Eina Nidin Daim L'Raya. The Nidain, Rav Meir, what you're discussing, the Nidain, which is burning Truma Tahira with Truma Tmeah, that's chametz. It's not doim la raya. The raya that you bring, it's not a proof. When Rabbi Seinu were made, and over here we see beferish that Rabbi Yaisi, right? In our Mishnah, Rabbi Yaisi argued on Rav Meir. Rav Meir wants to apply to Truma Tahira, Truma Tmeya, right? And then Rabbi Yaisi says, "No, it's not a raya." Yes, this is what are you talking about, right? He says, "No, Rabbi Shua is not masking, right?" But over here in this Tosefta, we have a different version of Rabbi Yaisi saying, and it's much clearer than we're saying. It's much clear that Rabbi Yaisi understood that Rav Meir was coming from Rav Chanina's Gana Kohanim, like we said in the beginning. It's clear from that. Rabbi Yaisi, and need them in the right. Shekshid Rabbi Seinu, when Rabbi Seinu were made, who's Rabbi Seinu? Chanina's Gana Kohanim. Almahidu. Imal Basar Shenit Mevlata Tuma, the first case, you start from by saying Basar Shenit Ba'avatuma, that's Rav Chanina's Gana Kohanim's case. Zeh Tamei V'Zeh Tamei. That's Rabbi Akiva's case, right? Is that possible? Was that Tomei? Also, we agree betruma shenit meis bevlada tuma shesorfin oisa ima truma shenit meis ba'avatuma. Right? You can apply the case of basar, Rabbi Chanina's case of basar, to truma also. Right? If you apply it to truma, it's also okay. Right? Because again, it's truma shenit meis bevlada tuma. You're burning it with truma shenit meis ba'avatuma. Right? And so it's basically Chanina's Gana's Kainim's case. Instead of being Basar Kaidish, it's Basar Truma, right? We can apply it to that. It's Truma also. We can apply it to that too, no problem, right? How can you burn the Tluya imatmeya? And now what they add in the words even the Tluya, right? Rav Meir wanted to say that even if it's 100% Tahar, you're allowed to burn it with the Chulun Tmeyin, right? Rav is saying even if it's Tluya, even if it's only a suffix tamei, how could you burn it with vadei tamei, right? Even if it's a suffix, still Yanavi might come and tell us that it's tar, right? So again, what he's asking the Gemara, the first kasha we had in the beginning of today's daf, that's what Rabbi Yaisi is asking, right? So obviously Rabbi Yaisi understood that Rav Meir is coming from Chanina's Gana Kohanim. He's not coming from the mission of Chavis. You let us save the Chavis of the broken Chavis. That's not what he's talking about. Obviously, Rabbi Yaisi understood not like that, right? Now continues Rabbi Yaisi, Apigol va'noiser va'tomei. This is a continuation of the brayso. Rashi says we don't really need this, right? Let's say you have pigol, noiser, and tamei, right? Kodshim, which is neither pigol, which means that it's possible because the kohen had machshava. Sul noiser means the time is past already, can't eat anymore, or got tamei, right? All these three things. V'shamai says you're not allowed to burn it together. Right? You are allowed to burn it together, right? So we'll see why this is relevant. Basically, right? Even Basil hold that you have to have a psul, pigol, noiser, tamei, right? You have to have an actual psul in order. Even though pigol and noiser don't seem to be tumah, it's not tumah at all. You're still allowed to burn it with tamei because anyway it's pasul, right? But over here it's not really pasul. It's tahar, we said, right? Or it's suffix tahar, which and Elihu might come to mitar it. Can't compare that
to pigul and nicer, which are totally puzzle. Right? Okay, but we'll focus on that later. If you want to tell me Rameir start coming from Yeshua, if he's coming from Yeshua, the case of Chavis, why is Rabbi Yossi fragging that it's not arrived from Chaninas Gana Kohanim? It's not arrived from Akiva's case of Ner, right? What shaykhs? We're talking about Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yossi Lavadaite. Rabbi Yossi didn't chap what Rav Meir was saying. The who of Rav Meir Chaninas Gana Kohanim come right? The Amr Leana with Rabbi Yeshua coming, right? So, meaning the first time that we saw in this brisa that's brought down with Sefta, Rabbi Yossi's comeback to Rav Meir, right? Taka, he thought Rav Meir was coming from Gana Kohanim, right? But then Rav Meir explained to him, the Amr Leana, no, with Rabbi Yeshua coming in. No, you misunderstood. I'm not coming from Yeshua, the case of Chavis, right? And that is what we have in our Mishnah. In our Mishnah, it's the second conversation. It's not the first conversation. Rabbi Yossi says to Rav Meir, that how does it make sense you're right from Chaninas Gana Kohanim? No, it's the second conversation. After Rav Meir corrected Rabbi Yossi and told him, no, I'm coming from Yeshua by Chavis. Right? Now Rabbi Yossi answers back, I feel Rabbi Yeshua Nami Eina Hiamida. Right? It's not a good right. The Hamaydir Belazar, Rabbi Yeshua Shesayr Zubif Neatzav Zubif Neatzav. Right? Because even Rabbi Belazar and Rabbi Yeshua would agree that you have to burn it separately. Right? Well, now that we explained it so well, Rav Meir seems to bring a very good raya. Right? The chulin tahirim is going leibud, and you're allowed to make it tummy with the cleat to save the. It's not the same thing as by us. That because it's going leibud, you're allowed to be matame, even though it's tahar. So what you're basically saying, it's not a good raya. No, midah. It's a geshmak raya. It's the same exact thing. No, Gemara says no. Shani hasam deikafsed chulin. Over there, you know why we allow it is because the truma tmei is going to cause you to lose your own yain on the bottom. Therefore, we allow you to be metame the truma, which is going leibud by a dime. Yes, we allow you to metame truma to hira that's going leibud by a dime, but only when there's a need because it's tame. Over here, what's the need? Burn the truma to hira in this fire and burn the truma tmei in that fire, right? Well, what's the big deal? No, you have to make two fires. You're going to lose eitzim. Right, you have to make two fires, right? So Kerem says we shall allow it here too. So it is a good right. Right? If you can lose all your wine, that's a hefsen meruba, so we allow you. But hefsen muad, what? Eitzim? How expensive is firewood, right? It's a big deal. You can make two fires and don't be. That's what Rabbi is tying back on Rav Meir is that make two separate piles, make two separate fires, and burn the truma here, and then truma tahir and the truma tmeya here, right? What's the hefset of a few little firewood? That's not a big deal, right? Masha'en kain. In the case of chavis, you know why they allowed it? Because you can lose all your wine that's on the bottom. It's going to become tummy. Okay, we'll be mamshich after shachar with Hashem.
Okay.
So the Gemara is now going to go back. You have another approach to the pshat in Rav Meir. Really what we said before, but show the Rabbi Yechanan holds that way. Amar Rabbi Asim Rabbi Yechanan, machlekes b'sheish. Machlekes whether you're allowed to burn truma tahara with truma tameya is only in the 6th hour of Abba Sheva, but in the 7th hour after Chatzos, when midoy rice already, it's asur ba'achila, right? So at that point, divrei kol sarfin, everybody agrees to let it burn truma tahara with truma tameya because midoy rice, it's asur ba'achila. So Amalei Reb Zeir Rabasi name because Rabbi Yechanan masisin ba'avatum da'iraisa v'lav datum d'Rabbanan. Maybe you're going to tell me Rabbi Yechanan holds that he knows this because in the Mishnah it's a vlad datum d'Rabbanan, like we said, like we first proposed in Rav Meir, and it's an avatum da'iraisa. Therefore, from there he learns from the fact that there's an isser on this, even though it's just a Rabbanan, right? So therefore, you're allowed to Pasal midaraisa also. So too over here, because it's already a complete iser midaraisa to burn it, right? So therefore he holds the iser to eat it is a chiyuv to burn it, right? So therefore he holds you allowed to be metame, right? The reason being that Rabbi Yochanan is not holding. Right, let's just read a little further. Right, and he holds that Rav Meir is coming from the Chaninas Gana Kohanim. Right, so Amar Lei in yes, Itmar Nami Rabbi Yochanan. Right, we was taught that Rabbi Yochanan says Masisin Ba'avatum D'Oraisa Uvladatum D'Rabbanan. Ma'im B'Divrei Midivrei Chaninas Gana Kohanim Machlekes B'Sheisha V'B'Sheva Divrei Kol Sarfin. Machlokes is only b'sheish. Well, b'sheva divrei kol sofrim. What's going on over here, right? So first of all, Rabbi Yochanan holds that the first chiddush is that b'sheva everyone agrees, right? B'sheva in the 7th hour, everyone holds you're allowed to burn the truma tahor with the tmei because then it's asur midaraisa, right? So basically, Rabbi Yochanan is focusing on the fact that there's an isser, and because there's an isser derabanan, there's a tuma derabanan, you're allowed to make it tamei midaraisa, and that's what he's learning from Chanina's Gana Kayhanim. So to us, since there's an isser, right, is an isser achila, so therefore you're allowed to burn it with truma tahora. However, Rabbi Yochanan is saying that you're only allowed to burn it, right? That you're only allowed to burn it from sheish shais, right? That even Rav Meir, who held you allowed, it's only from sheish shais, 6th hour. But the 4th hour and the 5th hour, even though you know no one's going to eat it and it's going le'ibud, right? Even though it's going le'ibud, that's not enough of a reason to burn it. So Rabbi Yochanan is not focusing on the fact, just like Rabbi Yeshua holds by Chavis, that since the truma is going le'ibud, it's going to be destroyed, therefore you're allowed to burn it. It's not about it's not about going le'ibud. It's about the isser that's on the chayfetz of the truma over here, right? So while Rabbi Yeshua says that since it's going le'ibud, it's a problem, Rabbi Yochanan holds that even though it's going le'ibud, if it's in the 4th and 5th hour where there's no isser yet, right? It's just going le'ibud. You just know it's going to be burnt. But since there's no actual isser on the truma tahor, you're not allowed to burn it because he's focusing on the fact that there has to be an isser. And just like Rabbi Chamin's Gana Kainim, there's an actual isser because it's tamei midarabanan, and therefore you're allowed to make it tamei midaraisa. So over here, once there's an actual isser midarabanan, right? Rav Meir holds, so too, you're allowed to burn it. Once there's an isser rabbanan, Rav Meir holds, so too, you're allowed to burn it. However, by right, so again, by when it's in the 6th hour, where it's only an isser derabanan, that's where Rav Meir says, you see from Chanina's Gana Kayanim, that it's only a tumah derabanan, you're allowed to burn it with tumah deraisa. So it's over here where it's a tumah derabanan in the 6th hour, and there's a din derabanan that it's now chayev b'sreifa, it's asur b'achila. So therefore, that's enough for Rav Meir to be able to burn it together with truma tahora, right? But b'sheva in the 7th hour, everyone agrees because it's a deraisa to eat it. So then everybody agrees that you're allowed to burn it with truma tahora. Okay, so that's how Rashi explains that Rabbi Yochanan differs. He's focusing on the fact that it's an isser, and not on the fact that it's going to be le'ibud. Lema Messiah, I think where it says, let's bring a raya to this. Hapigul v'anoisar v'atamei b'shamai oimrim ein nisrafim ka'achas. V'sil oimrim nisrafim ka'achas. Right? That you see over here, that according to Beis Hillel, if you have pigul, noisar, and tamei. Now, pigul and noisar are just isurim, right? And which have to be nisraf, but it's not because it's tamei. And you're allowed to burn it together with something that's tamei. According to Beis Shammai, not, but according to Beis Hillel, which we hold like nisrafim ka'achas, you're allowed to burn it together. What do you see? That since there's an isser d'oraisa on the pigul and the noisar to eat it, we have no problem burning it with tamei. So too, Rabbi Yochanan holds that achar sheva after 7 hours, but when it's an isser d'oraisa to eat the chametz, right? So then you're allowed to burn it with truma tahora according to everybody, just like pigul and tamei, noisar and tamei, even though the pigul and the noisar aren't actually tamei, but they're asur. That's enough. The Gemara says no. Shani hasam deislu tumah d'Rabbanan. You can't bring a raya for that because the Rabbanan did institute a tumah on pigul and noisar. If you touch pigul and noisar, your hands are tamei, right? You have to do tilas yadayim, right? So see that the Chachamim instituted a tumah on pigul and noisar, and therefore you're allowed to burn it together. But maybe there's no raya to chametz, which is totally tahar. Okay, Levi Messiah, a different raya. Apas sheipsha. You have bread that became moldy. And it's not roy lachilas adam, but it's still a kelev could eat it. So then the rule is right? There's a famous rule that even though it's not roy lachilas adam, so let's say in terms of isser, it wouldn't be usher to eat an isser achila, right? But in terms of whether it's oichel, let's say you have nevela, that's not roy lachilas adam, right? That's not a problem. It's not a problem. It might be maybe nisr abundant to eat it or something, but the point is that it's not considered nevela. It's not isra achila of nevela. It's not roy achila. However, it's still mitame tumas oichel as long as a kelev will still eat it. It's also shem oichel regarding tumas achila, tumas oichel. A kelev yochel oichla, right? So as long as the kelev is yochel oichel, mitame tumas oichel mekabetza. If you have a shear kabetza, then it's mitame tumas oichel, right? And in addition, nisrefes imatmeya bepesach. If it's tahor, if it's truma tahora, right, you're allowed to burn it with a tmeya bepesach. Right. So what do you see from here? Right. You see from here that since it's right, that since it's something that is nifsal milechol laadam, right? So therefore, what you're allowed to burn it with a tmeya. You see, everybody agrees. Right, everybody agrees that if something is ipsha, if something's moldy, right, and it's not roy lachila, so avada, even everyone, there seems to be the Gemara understands, even Rabbi Yossi holds that you're allowed to burn that with truma tmeya. Why? Because it's mamish not roy lachila anymore. So too, achar sheva, it should not be roy lachila anymore. Achar sheva, it's not roy lachila anymore. So right, so everyone agrees, even Rabbi Yossi agrees that you're allowed to burn it after 7 hours with truma tmeya. Says the Gemara, no, shani hasam, the afra ba'almu. Over there it's different. Don't bring me a raya over there, because over there, the maisa in the physicality of the food, it's afar, it's dust, it's not lachila for anyone, right? So mashenkin over here, it's a legal issue, right? All right, it's a legal issue. Okay, we're just gonna finish a few lines because it's mamash hamshach over here, but whatever, it's recording it, so if you want, I could. I'll post it later. Yeah. Thank you. So, ihachi mai moida, right? So, what does it mean, according to this? What does it mean, moida Rabbi Yeshua? Right? We said that even Rabbi Yeshua's moida. Rabbi Yossi says even Rabbi Yeshua's moida, that you have to burn the truma tahara and the truma tmeya separately, right? What shaychas Rabbi Yeshua? We're talking about b'chinas gan hakayim. According to this pshat that Rabbi Yochanan Taka holds, that Rav Meir is coming from Chanina's Gana Kayanim. We're learning from Rav Meir is learning from Chanina what shaychas Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua, right? So the Gemara says, I feel Rabbi Yeshua the Mekel means again the Gemara is sticking in the whole narrative with Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yossi, Rav Meir Avada is coming from Chanina's Gana Kayanim. First, Rabbi Yossi says he doesn't like, and the Gemara is going to explain why he doesn't like your raya from Chanina's Gana Kayanim. Rabbi Yossi is going to push off this raya from the Gemara is going to explain why, But he says, even if without b'chinas gan hakayanim, right? Even you want to bring Rabbi Yeshua, you can't even bring Rabbi Yeshua. Meaning Rabbi Yossi is introducing Rabbi Yeshua, even though Rav Meir never meant Rabbi Yeshua. What he means is you might bring in Rabbi Yeshua as a raya, Rabbi Yeshua that said that if you have a suffik toma, right, suffik, something that was suffik tame, that you're allowed to leave it out in the open and let it become tame, that's not a raya, right? And so Rabbi Yossi is sort of saying, even according to Rav Meir, if you want to bring Rabbi Yeshua the Mekel, right, he's Mekel, ki Mekel betluya, he's only being Mekel betluya if it's a suffix. Something that's suffix together with something that's tameh. But b'taharu tmei Allah, he's not going to be like that, right? And again, the same, and the other raya, also, that's only the hefsed. Only when there's a hefsed, that's when, right, when the hefsed, your one is becoming usher, then he holds that you're not allowed, that you're allowed to be mitam with the truma, to save your wine. Again, it's Rabbi Yossi in Chanami. Rav Meir was coming from Chanina's Gana Kayanim. Rabbi Yossi doesn't like it for what the Gemara is going to say in a second. But Rabbi Yossi ends that even if you want to bring Rabbi Yeshua as a raya, again, that's not a raya, right? Because Rabbi Yeshua was only talking about Truma Tluya if it's suffix, but if it's Vadei Tahar together with Tameh, even Rabbi Yeshua would not be masking. Okay. Where it says, well, if so, what does Rabbi Yossi say when he says that's not a proof, that's not similar, right? It's not the same midah that you bring a raya from Chanina's Gana Kayanim. It's not true. Midah, right? It is the right thing. According to Rabbi Yochanan, he's taka saying, right, that the pshat is, right, that this is a tumah d'Rabbanan, right? That the bus is tumah d'Rabbanan, and you bring with tumah d'Oraisa. So too by us, right? It's asur ba'achila, right, midrabanan, but you're allowed to be mitame, you're allowed to burn it together with something that's something midoraisa, right? Even though it's darabanan, you're allowed to do doraisa. The Gemara says, over here, the case of he understood the case of b'chinas gan hakayanim is that it's the basar was only nitma b'mashkin shenitmu machmas sheretz, right? And therefore, Azar Meila time, meaning even the Rav Meir is going according to Rav Meir's time. Rav Meir's time is tumas mashkin tamei chemer derabanan. Rav Meir holds that tumas mashkin is only mitame other food midirabanan. Well, we talked about this before on Amar Aleph, right? There's different tumas mashkin. Tumas mashkin, that mashkin itself becomes tamei, right? That everyone's made that it's a d'oraisa, right? But that mashkin can be mitame oichlim. This is a machlekes whether it's d'oraisa or not. Whether it's mitame kelim, that's a shor d'rabanan, right? That will see, whatever. Maybe not everybody holds that, but right. So when we're discussing tumas mashkin, we have to know what we're talking about. Are we talking about it itself becoming tamei because the tamei person touches it? Are we discussing tumas mashkin that it makes other oichel tamei, or are we discussing it makes kelim tameim? Right. So over here, Rabbi Yomi is saying that really Rav Meir holds, right, that tumas mashkin and tamei cherem is d'rabanan, right? So therefore, in our situation over here, it's the same exact case, right? This is only the basar that was in is only midrabanan, because how did it become tamei? Through mashkin that touched the sheretz, right? And therefore we're calling it a sheni l'tomo or shlishi l'tomo because it got tamei through mashkin. And according to Rameir, but that's only derabanan because mashkin, even if they are tamei, can't be mitame oichel midrabanan. Midaraisa. They can't be talking midaraisa. So it's midarabanan. So according to Rameir, comes out the case is the rabbanan touching a daraisa, and therefore according to him, it's a rabbanan touching a daraisa. That's a raya that if something's talking midarabanan, you're allowed to. But Yasios no. Tumas mashkin and tamechem is daraisa, right? And therefore this is already daraisa, and therefore the fact that it's touching another daraisa is not such a chiddush. It's tamei midaraisa. Midaraisa, you have no raya to us because over here the chametz is only us midarabanan, right? So again, what Rabbi Yomi is explaining is that kultov. But Rabbi Yomi is explaining that really this machlokes between Rameir and Rabbi Yosi goes back to another machlokes. Are mashkin able to be mashkin tmein? Are they able to be mitame oichel? Right. So you have a sheretz, which is an avatoma. It touches mashkin, right? And then these mashkin go ahead and touch basar, right? So according to Rav Meir, this is tamei olim d'rabanan because mashkin tmein, even though this is mashkin tmeim, right? It can't be mitame oichel. We don't have any possible to teach us that mashkin tmeim are mitame oichel midaraisa. It's only the rabbanan. No, that is a hechsher. That it's huchsha lekabel tuma. You need liquid to be machsher something lekabel tuma. Not that the liquid itself is tamei. Once it's huchsha lekabel tuma, then the sheretz touches the oichel. Then the oichel becomes tamei, right?
Oh, the sheretz that touches the oichel
doesn't make the oichel tamei because there's no water, right? But that's machshir, right? But over here we're talking about the sheretz touches mashkin. The mashkin touched the basar, right? Okay, let's say this is huchsha lekabel tuma, whatever. It's already huchsha, right? But the point is that this is only mashkin, and mashkin, according to Rav Meir, don't make something tamei midaraisa only midarabanan. So we're left here with derabanan dikatoma, and now that touches the rishain, right? And now it becomes a sheni, right? So according to midaraisa, so says Rav Meir, you see from here that something that's only also midarabanan, you're allowed to make it tamei midaraisa. But Yasi says, what are you talking about? Mashkin that touch oichel, it's a deraisa, right? It's a deraisa de ketuma, right? So therefore, according to him, Rabbi Yosi says the only thing Chaninas Ganakainim taught us was that something that's already tamei midaraisa, shlishi, can become a sheni deraisa. It's already deraisa into a higher level deraisa, fine. But if something is tamei, it's also only midarabanan, you have no right to make it tamei midaraisa. And therefore, you have no right to tell me that chametz, which is asur midrabanan from 6 hours, only it's the 6th hour. It's only asur midrabanan. You're allowed to make it tamei daraisa? No, you can't. Right? And so we'll see the hemshech tomorrow, where we see this machlokes between Rabbi Yosi and Rav Meir, and then the Gemara is going to go further into it. But that's how Rabbi Yirmiyah explains the machlokes, and therefore everything works out. That Rabbi Yosi holds, Rabbi Yosi holds is no raya. It's eina min amida because according to him, Chanina's Ganakhanim's case is already daraisa. Okay.
So that's what we see. Where does he hold them?
No, so therefore